Hey friends, it's me, the Ebony Otaku, on the day of love, the well-rounded nerd in my Spider Gwen hoodie, cause winter has finally decided to winter, and I'm cold. And there's a window right there in my office. You see the sun. That's why I had to move my desk. My desk used to face that way, and I was like, I would be staring into the sun sometimes. I was like, flip it that way, but now sometimes it's on the side of my face, but that's fine. We're gonna do a different kind of video today. Um, when I was toying around with the idea of memberships, something I always sneak into a lot of my videos is just kind of like nerdy love and life unsolicited advice that you can do with what you will because it was free and But I thought an important topic to talk about would be, since it's a day of love, would be love. We in my social life and people that I know, be they friendships or people who are chosen family, that kind of thing. A topic that always comes up so much is that of love, ships of all kinds, relationships. It doesn't matter if it is a romantic relationship, a friendship relationship. Humans are built to make connections with one another. And as much as I have fun with social media, I mean, I've got a whole YouTube channel, got a Discord, go join it. I Instagram, Facebook. I was there when Facebook was invented. I was there when the old magic was written. Okay, all right. Facebook was started when I went to college the first time. That it was a college app to like rank people and how attractive they were. Not great, but now look what it's become. But with all of the great things social media has brought us, it's also brought a lot of toxicity into the social zeitgeist about all kinds of relationships. And not even just romantic ones, but friendships as well. If a person isn't all of these things, then are they worth your time? Well, guess what? You weren't all those things either. I love having standards so high that nobody, even oneself, can't live up to them. Um, you know that that especially in the romantic spaces, so much of dating and trying to find a partner has become so much about, what do I need? Well, that's important, but also, what do they need? And are you in a space where you can not just get your needs fulfilled, but be someone who can fulfill needs of another person? Granted, choosing one's relationship is very much a modern concept throughout history. Most of the time, marriage was an arrangement. It was arrangement for political reasons, social reasons, economic reasons. Um, not often was it a choice. This thing about choosing spouses is very modern. I mean, modern within like the last 100 years or so. I mean, super modern when you think about human history. But that's how we do it now. And there's nothing wrong with it. And however your culture handles, marriage and whatnot, yeah, cool. Um, Not a judgment, but I interact with so many people who either want to receive love, give love, be that through a romantic relationship or a platonic relationship. And it seems like there's just so many swings and misses going on out there. Like, I'm over 40, and, making friends over 40, if you're not an extroverted extrovert who always extroverts, it can be very difficult. My husband's, more on the quiet side. I wouldn't call him a total introvert. He likes to say he has people. He has persons, not people. Like, I'm a very peoply person. He's a very personally person. So he likes his individuals, but collectives are not so much his thing. I'm just like, oh, all the people all the time. Yay. We're very different that way, and that's fine. We balance each other out. But when you're not even looking for romantic love, even in friendships, showing up in ways that generate the desired outcome. And I hate that social media has become this toxic wasteland of selfishness. That it's all about the me, the I, the me, the I, the me. And look, the you and the I are important. I like me. I only get one life. There's only one person on this earth that God let me control, and it was me. But what I do with my life and how I bring my life and show up with and for other people, that matters. And one of the reasons I'm able to be someone who has some great ships in her life, including my husband, all my friendships, is because I've worked hard to understand this concept of what it means for humans to make community and what that really looks like. And how can I spread that in all the spaces that I inhabit? But I can't inhabit every space everywhere because my God, think about how great every type of ship would be if we would just all like grab onto some basic concepts that your feelings are valid, that your point of view is valid. I may not understand it, it might make me uncomfortable, but that's your lived experience and it's valid. That we're all products of our upbringing and socialization, that we're all making choices based on the information that we have, that it's okay to give people grace as they're learning new information and showing up in the world a different way. And it all comes down to love. What is love? What does love really look like? What does love really feel like? We've taken this concept of love and turned it into scientific parameters. If somebody doesn't balance out the scales just right, well, and I don't think I made it a secret. My husband is my second husband. I got married when I was 18. It wasn't going to work. You'll never hear me say a bad word about my first husband. If he ever finds this channel, I want you to know in the 20 years since we got divorced, I've never said a bad word about you. We were kids. When we were 18, we were kids. I didn't understand his upbringing. He didn't understand mine. And as we got older, who we were when we were 17 when we met, and who we were when we were 23 when we got divorced, simply just were not the same people. And have both of us had a better grounding in what love really is, we may have been able to work it out. Do I regret it? No. Every experience makes you who you are. All right. There are things in my past that, might be regrettable, but if anything had been different, would I be in this moment right now? And I like this moment. And if you're in a hard moment right now, you'll get through. We all do. I got stories. I'm not going to tell them on the internet, but let me tell you, y'all are just here for the good part. there's been some chapters that I have put in a drawer and I'm not going to reopen ever. But I think back in my life and my friendships, even with my relatives, there are some things, some situations that may have turned out completely differently had we all just really had a basic understanding of what love really means, because love isn't selfish. Love does not seek to just serve self. What is love? And how can we show it in and around those that we cherish or shape to cherish? And I'm no great scholar. I'm no great theologian either. I do like to read. I like to study for fun. That's why I'm getting a master's degree, partially for my career, partially because I'm a dork and I like to study. And it gives me a process by which to study. But I started thinking, like, how can I talk about this subject that is so important to so many people? And I won't put it behind a paywall because it's information we all need. Will this video do well? Probably not, because y'all like Warhammer and Transformers. But it'll be out there. What is my source of understanding love? And I'm going to go to the Bible for this one. Um, go specifically to First Corinthians chapter 13. It's called the love chapter if you're unfamiliar. And I'm not here to proselytize, but I want you to know from where I get my definition of love and how it should show up. And I think a lot of what's here is going to ring true for a lot of people. This old beat up Bible, my previous Taekwondo instructor gave it to me as part of the mission team. I've thought about getting it repaired, but there's just something comforting about the beat upness of this. It reminds me of all the things and places I've been with this particular Bible. So, yes, it's pink. My life has a theme. But what is love? Let's talk about it. The greatest gift. That's a little subheading they put in here. Those subheadings mean nothing. They were added way later, as were the chapters and verses. Do you know how they memorized scripture back in the day before there were chapters and verses? I'm talking Old Testament, the Torah. You just had to learn it, and you would say the first line of something, and then everybody would know where you were. We added the chapters and verses because we're lazy, and we don't memorize it. We want to be able to, point to a page. Anywho, I digress. First Corinthians chapter 13. And if you're curious, I'm reading out of the New King James Version. Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I have become sounding brass or clanging cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, but have not love, it profits me nothing. That's verses 1 through 3. What does that mean? It means we could know everything, do everything right, be the most outwardly altruistic person that ever was. But if we do those things without love, your soul is empty. And that's the portion of the chapter that is inward facing. So much of the information about love that's floating around is only about self. But love isn't just about me. Even if I'm doing something for another person, if I do it for any other reason than I love them, they're a human being, they have a need, and I'm in a position to fill it. That need may not even be material, it might be a hug, it might be a kind word, it might be a little bit of encouragement, it could very well be food, information, housing, clothing. But if we give of ourselves from any other place but love, it is empty. You might have all the right words, but you are a clanging cymbal. You're noise. Have you ever seen people that try to cover up their awful personalities and bad behavior with good deeds? There's a lot of that in the news right now. Like, yeah, this person was terrible, but look at all this charity they did. It means nothing. Thank you for feeding the poor doesn't absolve you of being terrible. Love is the currency through which relationships are founded and built. We have to pay love into our relationships so that we can make those withdrawals for one another. If there's no love in me, I have no love to give. And when I do things for people and I don't do them out of love, it's just mechanics. It's just doing stuff to be doing. But my own soul is dying. That's what's happening when we don't do the good things for the right reasons. Yeah, that other person benefits, but what happens to you? What happens to your inner person, your soul, your spirit, whatever you want to call it? That inner portion of us that goes, ugh, when we do something wrong, if you have that. That's the part that's about us. So, yeah, love is, there is an inward portion. But what about the rest of it? See, that's the portion that we focus on so much is what does it do for me? Well, what it does for you is also what it does for others. Because if I help the poor, the sick, the widow, the needy, the hurting from a place of love, it doesn't just help them through that moment, it rejuvenates my own spirit. My spirit needs the nourishment of being kind to others. Being kind is always the right choice. Always. It will never be wrong to lead with love and kindness. Now, love is more than just an adjective. Love is a verb. It is something we do, it's something we are, it's something we embody. If I want to build up better relationships, again, be they friendships or romantic relationships, how do I do that? What does that look like? So I know what it looks like if I don't do things with love, but what actually is love? I'm I'm so glad you asked. So let's talk about it. And though, oh no no, verse 4. Love suffers long and is kind. You know what long suffering is? It's patience. Love is patient. Like with children, I've done a lot. I don't have biological children of my own. I've worked with tons of kids over the years, and I have two stepchildren, which I refer to as my kids because I married into their family. I chose to take on the responsibility of having them in their lives. But if you've ever worked with young kids, I've been teaching martial arts, Sunday school, all the things for a long time. You got to be patient with children, whether they're yours or someone else's, because they're going to ask you the same question 9,000 times. They did not get it the first time. If they're learning to walk up the stairs, they want to do it by themselves, you can't just run up the stairs and don't just scoop them up and go. If you got the help. You gotta be patient, helping that baby, holding their hand, standing behind them, so they can do that little crawl one step at a time, and they have a safety net. Patience in as they grow and are learning to tie their shoes, learning how to hold a pencil. Patience, and not just with children, but with one another. Even as we grow, I mean, one of my favorite things I've learned is as long as I'm alive, I need to keep learning. And if you stop learning, you stop growing. You know what it means if you're not growing anymore. What do we say about plants that aren't growing? What are they? Yeah. So I don't want to be that right now. I need to keep learning and growing. But that requires patience. If I'm learning and I don't get things right the first time, why do I expect that out of everybody else? And see, that's where the zeitgeist is being really, really toxic, to teach people to expect things out of others that they can't even do themselves. Well, I expect my wife to be able to do blah, 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 blah. Otherwise, she's not worthy of being wife. Well, I expect my husband to be able to blah, 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 blah. Otherwise, he's not worthy of being a husband. Can you do any of those things? Have patience. And especially if you're young, a young couple starting out, you have a lot to learn. My husband and I, my first husband and I, we didn't have the patience to stay and learn with one another. We hadn't been taught patience, honestly. The examples we had for relationships weren't that great. So we both had lessons to learn, and I hope he's gone on to find his person and learn those lessons. I've certainly learned those lessons this time around because I am infinitely more patient at 43 than I was at 18. Because sometimes people need time. Sometimes people need the kind of patience that has a little bit of separation. I love you. I'm patient with you, but maybe my presence is not actually helping you be what you need to be and do what you need to do. I will give you that time and space. Love doesn't hold people hostage. I can change them. I can fix them. The heck you can't. That's not what patience means. Patience doesn't mean missionary dating. It doesn't mean be Captain Save a Ho. That's not what it means. It means all humans need their own time and space to learn and grow, and we give it to them. Sometimes we get to go along in the journey, sometimes we don't, but love isn't selfish. Love is kind and does not envy. Love does not parade itself, it is not puffed up. Ain't nothing loving about pride. Now, I didn't say you shouldn't love yourself and you shouldn't love others and you shouldn't be proud. There's a difference between being proud of yourself and being boastful and prideful. Being boastful and prideful means lording who you are or what you have over others and denigrating another human's position in this world to elevate oneself. That's what that means. It's okay to be proud of your degree. It's okay to be proud of the family you've made. It's okay to be proud of that painting. Or heck, for some people, it's okay to be proud that you finally got out of the bed and took that shower. It's okay that you finally reorganized the garage and you're proud of how it looks. That's not what we're talking about. Because it goes on, it says, does not envy, does not parade itself, is not puffed up. That's where ego is taking over. If my ego matters more to me than the care of the feelings of others, I'm wrong. When I was in high school, and I've told this story before, I wondered if I would ever tell it again because it does not make me look good. But this happened. I can only speak from a place of I can't tell you stories about people that aren't me. So when I was in high school, my last couple of years of high school, I ended up turning into a little bit of a theater prodigy. I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty darn good. I was proud of myself. And I was getting a lot of awards. I was going places and competing in drama competitions. I actually got accepted to some pretty big schools when I was younger. Like, it's just in my own head, I was a big deal. And, I was 17 my senior year of high school, so relatively young for graduating. Sorry, I kicked my camera stand. Relatively young for the graduation age because it's typically 18. But I was 17 when I got out of high school. 17. That's not possible now with the way they do it, but 17. So immature, being told all the time how great I was. And in general, I was pretty good at making friends. But towards the middle of the last semester of high school, I had really gotten super ego-y about myself. Um, and I'm not even sure I realized that it happened, but my ego was up here, like off the camera, way up here. um, and we were having to do this final assignment in a theater class where we were putting on these vignettes for a school showcase, and all the parents were coming on. It was kind of a little big deal. And with that, we were all separated into groups in this class to put on small plays. And um, I was running one group as the director. I actually still have the book. It's down here and it's falling apart. The little play I directed, I'll never get rid of this. Look at this, it's so old. I did Pyramus and Thisbe. It was a whole thing. I have all my stage notes. Everything is in here. I found this rainbow paper. I wrote everything on, and I loved it. But I have the whole thing. How the stage was done. This is a treasure. I've had this for 25 years. I graduated in the year 2000. I've had it for 26 years. um, very treasure to me. There was another group who needed another actor because something happened to one of the students, and I forget what it was. I can't remember if they moved or if they had something in their family, but they couldn't be in another group's activity. So they asked if I would do it. They're like, "You're the best theater person in the school. You can memorize multiple lines." I was like, "Sure, I'll be in your thing." And my teacher was like, "You kind of need to." I was like, "Fine, I'll do it." And me and the person who was running that little group as the director, I can't remember why, but we clashed. And up until that point, we had gotten along okay, but then somehow we just clashed. And she and I just started bickering with each other, and I wasn't being very nice. I cannot remember everything she said and did, but I remember what I said and did. Because one day we had a fight so not good that I'm not proud of this. I was 17, would never even think to say something like this now. Um, but she called me a name and I called her a cesspool of ignorance. Oh, that you think that was the worst? No, it got worse. She called me something else, and I told this girl, I am not proud of this, but this is what pride will do. I told this girl that she was the reason God allows abortion. I was 17. It's one of the worst things I've ever said to somebody in my life. That's what pride does. And what does pride go before? A fall. I mean, I met my high school sweetheart and married him that year. We divorced, so I can't say they're related, but can't say they aren't unrelated. That's what it means that love is not prideful and puffed up. I was so in my head as being this great theater kid that the thought of working with the kids below me just. And I said something incredibly cruel. Now, it did catch up with me later that I had been really out of pocket, and I did end up apologizing to her, and we did make up. But I have remembered that I said that for the rest of my life, and it has set a tone for me in how I treat people. As I've gotten older, as I've matured, as I've studied, as I've learned more lessons, there are things I simply will not say. There are things I simply will not do. There are places I won't go because if it puts me in a position where I think I'm going to be unkind to someone, I can't do it. Because I do remember in my own childhood times when people weren't kind to me and it doesn't feel good. I remember people lording things over at me, and it doesn't feel good. And I made somebody feel like that. And I don't ever want to make somebody feel like that again. That's what it means that love is kind. It suffers long. It does not envy. It does not parade itself. It is not puffed up. Love isn't flashy. Love isn't what you can show people. Love is what you can do with and for one another. Verse 5 does not behave rudely, does not seek its own, is not provoked, thinks no evil. When you love people, they can't push your buttons. I have turned into a very calm, collected person who just doesn't react. There was a time in my life I was a bit of a keyboard warrior. I don't do that anymore. One, no one's listening. You can be as much of a keyboard warrior as you want. Nobody's listening. No one cares. But two, a lot of that causes people to be unkind. I do not understand this environment that we've created where, because of political figures, people are causing division amongst families and friends that were there long before particular individuals held any office and will be there long after, but because of what some stranger says and does, people are willing to sever long-standing ties. I won't allow it. I don't do politics. I'm not interested because my hope is not in them. And I don't do life with any of those people. The people that I do life with, I'm not going to be rude to you. I'm going to be kind to you. I'm not going to be selfish and only think about those things that affect me. I mean, how many problems in this world would be solved overnight if we could all just stop being selfish? How does it benefit me? What does it do for me? How do I get something out of this? Sometimes all you gain is experience, and sometimes that's good enough. It's okay to be altruistic. Somebody else receiving does not mean I'm losing. Somebody else getting a privilege does not mean that I lost a privilege. My life does not change because your life got better. I want your life to get better. That's what it means for love to not be rude or seek its own. If we all cared more about all of us succeeding, finding what happiness means to each of us, the world would be a much kinder place. Love does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in truth. Love doesn't like it when bad things happen. Love doesn't laugh at the misfortune of others. Love doesn't say, well, they deserved it. Even the worst humans among us, and we can name their crimes, what happened to them to make them the way that they were? Because we need to stop that. There is so much of we need to change this behavior. No, we need to change what causes this behavior. We need to pluck out the root of what causes people to be this way. There is so much perpetuated generational evil that happens because things get covered up. Nobody will say anything. Justice does not happen. You know what love does? Love fights for the innocent. Love is justice. Love is caring enough to say that's wrong. And just because you're powerful, just because you have a lot of money, just because you have a lot of influence, doesn't mean you get away with what's wrong. Just because you're the person in charge of our family, just because you're the leader of this religious organization, doesn't mean that you get to be shielded from the consequences of doing wrong. I don't trust people or situations where there is a celebration of an individual over individuals. The only real example I can think of is sometimes the celebrity church culture, where there's a cult built around an individual leading a congregation. And I don't care if it's a Christian congregation. There was a Hindu group, and I'm not. They weren't even called that. There was the Rajneeshis, all built around this one guy, and they moved him over to somewhere in the Midwest. It was a whole thing. Um, where it's like one dude and we just all follow this dude, and this dude or dudette can do no wrong, and even if we find out they did wrong, we don't care because they're our grand leader. I don't like that. I don't like that because then those people do things that are terrible, and instead of going huh, everybody goes, well, at least they're still our leader. No, that's how revolutions happened. Have y'all read history? Leaders that do enough wrong eventually meet their people, and not in a good way. So that's why love can't rejoice in iniquity. We can't look at things that are wrong. Just there are some things that are flat out wrong and go, well, no, wrong is wrong. Wrong is wrong. If I see something happening to somebody and it's wrong, I choose to speak up. I choose to be a voice. I choose to be a light. I choose not to say that, well, my comfort and abilities and freedom are more important than another's, because everyone deserves to have peace in this life. Love rejoices in the truth, and the truth will set you free. It might piss you off. The truth might make you mad, but it will set you free. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love stays the course. Love is not a moment. That's why the butterflies are not a reason to get married. It's being able to walk through all portions of life. It's looking at that person and saying, I will walk through the valleys and up the mountainside and through the plains with you. I'll do it all because I'm choosing to be here. Love is a choice. Even with our relatives, it's still a choice on whether or not you're going to walk through the fire with them or just be there for the pleasant times. That's what love does. Love never fails. Now, that's a high bar, isn't it? This is the part where you're going to find out how Christian I really am. Who is love? God is love. I mean, the whole story here is just, it's love. Christ died for the love of the Father and for the love of us. It's love. Love lays down one's life, sacrifices for another. The example that we're shown over and over and over in Scripture is of love laying down what one wants in exchange for what's right. When Jesus is about to be crucified in the Garden of Gethsemane, he prays. And he prays so hard that he weeps blood because he knows he's about to die in one of the worst ways humans have ever created. And he says, This bitter cup, this bitter cup, let it pass from me. What that means is if there's any other way, because the cup of God's wrath was about to be poured out upon the Son. And he was going to feel everything on behalf of humanity in that moment. And he had never felt his Father's wrath before. But he said, at the end of it, not my will, but your will be done. That's what love is. Love is looking at my husband, and there may be a thing that I'm holding on to real tight, but if it's not in service of our relationship and our family, I lay it down. It's not about me. It's about what is best for the health of us overall because I chose to be here. Christ condescended to be man. He chose to be man. And because he chose to be man, he chose to walk this path. And to know that even Jesus had a moment of, hey, if there's another way, makes me feel real better about being human. Because sometimes we wish there was another way. But love suffers long. Love would lay down its life, even for those who we don't think deserve it. Because Christ laid down his life for everyone, the ones who deserve it and the ones who don't deserve it. I'm skipping to verse 13. And now abide faith, hope, love, these three. But the greatest of these is love. I know not everyone who stumbles upon my channel will have the same faith foundation that I do. And it's taken me a long time to research and decide where I am with my faith. I got stories on that. I may or may not tell them. That's not what this channel is about. I'm here to talk about love today. But in all my studies, all my travels, all my experiences, what I have learned is that there's always space for love, for kindness. That I've had the best experiences in life and with other people when I choose to lay down my ego, my pride, myself in service of others. That doesn't always mean going on a mission trip or working at the soup kitchen or giving away all your money. It can mean smiling at a kid who's crying. It it can mean helping someone find their way if they're lost. I'll give you a couple of examples and then I'll close this video because I'm rambling now. Very simple examples. So about 10 years ago, I was on a work trip. I had gone up to DC and had to be there for about 3 days. And I wanted to go home. DC is, you know, it's cool, but the place we were staying, it's like an industrial kind of area because it was a work trip. I wasn't there for fun, and I just wanted to go home. So some storms were moving in the southeast. And, I'm flying from the north to the south, and there was just delay, 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 delay. So I'm sitting in the airport, finding out, okay, great, gonna have to get rebooked. This was, 10 years ago. So concierge services, I was gonna have to go to the counter to get rebooked. Well, I'm up there actually one of the first people in line, and this little kid came up to me out of nowhere, picked me out of this crowd of people waiting in line to get rebooked, and he's holding up a set of boarding passes, and he looked so scared, but he said, "Can you help me? We're lost." And I looked up, and his mother, wearing full hijab, and his little sister were sitting there, and they were looking at me. And in my heart, I was like, why did they pick me? I know why they picked me. Um, but I'm also the kid whisperer, so there's that. I got out of line and went to help them. I've flown a lot, so I read their boarding passes, kind of understood the situation. Their plane had gotten diverted because of the weather, and they were supposed to get on another plane, but I think they were about to miss it. Another gate agent was coming up and saw what I was doing, and he opened up another um, terminal so that we could help them. And he ended up walking them to their plane, got them food vouchers, made sure they got where they were going. And he came back and helped me first. And he said, "I've never seen somebody do that in an airport. You gave up your spot in line and your ability to go home tonight to help them." I was like, well, what else was I supposed to do when a little kid's scared and crying and doesn't know where to go? That's what love does. I don't know those people. I'll never see them again. But that's what it means to lay yourself down. I had something I wanted to accomplish. I wanted to go home. But how am I going to leave a little kid, his mom who doesn't speak a lot of English, and his baby sister stranded in an airport when I had the ability to help? Second one, I was on a mission trip. We were coming back from Chiapas, Mexico, heading back to Palenque so that we could get to the airport in Villahermosa the next day. And we let some folks join us in our van, a woman and her child, because they were going the same way. And the van had full air conditioning on. If you know anything about Mexico, in that part of Mexico, air conditioning is a luxury. Most people don't experience it. We had it on full blast, and the woman and her daughter, she's holding her really tight, and the little girl was just cold. I could look at her and tell. I took my uniform jacket off and let the mom wrap the little girl in it. She didn't speak Spanish even. I speak pretty good Spanish. She spoke Saltal. I don't speak any Saltal. No, I'm sorry. She spoke Chol. Don't speak any Chol either. But I could tell in eyeballs that was a mom who needed to comfort her child, and she didn't have a way to keep her warm. I actually have a picture of it. I'm not going to share it. It's my picture. Um, but those 5 hours back, her little girl was warm. That's what it means for love to lay itself down. That was my uniform top. I had a uniform for years. This was about 5 years ago this happened. I think we're on our way back. It was the last mission trip we went on before the pandemic. Um, and then, after that, everything's back to normal now. But we were on our way back when the announcement came. But I gave this kid my coat. And that's what we're supposed to do. That's what love looks like when we care for one another. So as we think about love on this day of love, and you think about all the ships that you would like to have, remember to lead with love and kindness. And if you don't have a definition of love, may I recommend 1 Corinthians chapter 13. I'll see you in the next one.